She was just a teenager, a girl barely out of childhood, thrust into the volatile world of Tudor politics and courtly intrigue. Catherine Howard's life was not one of her own making, but instead a story of ambition, manipulation, and betrayal. Her fate, sealed by the ambitions of her powerful family and the desires of an aging, tyrannical king, remains one of the most tragic executions in English history. Born around 1523, Catherine Howard was the daughter of Lord Edmund Howard, a younger son of the Duke of Norfolk. While her family name carried prestige, her father's financial struggles left her upbringing far from the luxuries expected of aristocracy. When she was still a young girl, Catherine was sent to live with her step-grandmother, Agnes Tilney, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. The Duchess's household was large, chaotic, and morally loose. It was here, in the relative neglect of the Duchess's home, that Catherine's early life began to shape the tragedy to come. The Duchess's residence was a place of little supervision, and Catherine, like other young women in the household, was left to her own devices. Her beauty and charm quickly made her the center of attention, and she became involved in relationships that would later haunt her. As a young teenager, she was first courted by her music tutor, Henry Manox, an older man who took advantage of her youth and naivety. Though the relationship never became fully physical, it was inappropriate and damaging. Soon after, Catherine formed a deeper connection with Francis Derham, a secretary in the household. Their relationship was more serious, involving secret meetings and promises of marriage, actions that were dangerous for a young woman's reputation in Tudor England. These early liaisons would have remained buried memories had Catherine not been thrust into the highest echelons of power. Her family, the powerful Howards, saw Catherine as a pawn in their ambitious game to control the court. Her uncle, Thomas Howard, the Duke of Norfolk, was a shrewd and calculating man who sought to restore his family to prominence. He had already orchestrated the rise and fall of his niece Anne Boleyn, who had been executed just a few years earlier. When Catherine was summoned to court in 1539 to serve as a lady-in-waiting to Anne of Cleves, she became a key piece in the Howard family's political strategy. At court, Catherine's beauty and vivacious personality, like a historical storyteller. To court, Catherine's beauty and vivacious personality quickly caught the attention of King Henry VIII. By this time, Henry was no longer the athletic, charismatic prince of his youth. He was in his late 40s, obese, plagued by health problems, and increasingly tyrannical. His fourth marriage to Anne of Cleves was a disaster, and Henry was desperate for a new wife who could restore his vitality and provide him with the affection and admiration he craved. Catherine, barely 16 or 17, seemed to embody the youth and innocence Henry longed for. To him, she was a vision of purity and vitality, a sharp contrast to his own aging and decaying body. Henry's infatuation with Catherine was immediate, and with the Howard family's encouragement, she quickly became the king's mistress. Anne of Cleves was set aside, and in July 1540, just days after his annulment, Henry married Catherine in a lavish ceremony. Catherine, still a teenager, became Queen of England, a position of immense power, but also of immense danger. Catherine's marriage to Henry VIII was far from a love story. While Henry adored her, showering her with jewels, gowns, and affection, Catherine's feelings toward him were likely far more complex. She was a young girl, married to a man old enough to be her father, a man whose temper was infamous and whose whims could turn deadly. While she played the role of the doting queen in public, Catherine's private life was marked by loneliness and fear. As queen, Catherine found herself surrounded by spies and enemies.
The Tudor court was a dangerous place, where alliances shifted rapidly, and even a whisper of scandal could lead to ruin. For Catherine, the secrets of her past were an ever-present threat. Those who had known her in the Duchess's household, including Francis Derham, were aware of her youthful indiscretions. Though she tried to distance herself from her past, the court was a place where secrets rarely stayed buried.
Lonely and isolated, Catherine made a fateful decision that would seal her tragic fate. She began an affair with Thomas Culpeper, a handsome and charming courtier who had long been the object of her affection. Their encounters were risky and clandestine, facilitated by her lady-in-waiting, Lady Rochford, the widow of George Boleyn. For Catherine, Culpeper represented the youthful passion and freedom she had been denied in her marriage. But in the Tudor court, such actions were not just dangerous, they were treasonous. By 1541, Catherine's enemies began to close in. Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, a Protestant reformer and opponent of the Catholic Howard faction, was informed of the Queen's past indiscretions and her current affair with Culpeper. Cranmer presented evidence to Henry VIII, who was initially skeptical. But when confronted with undeniable proof, including love letters between Catherine and Culpeper, the king's adoration turned to fury. The young queen, who had once been the light of his life, was now branded a traitor. Catherine was arrested and imprisoned in the Tower of London. Her former lovers, Francis Derham and Thomas Culpeper, were tortured and executed, their heads displayed on pikes as a warning to others. Catherine herself was interrogated, and though she denied some of the charges, she could not escape the evidence against her. In Tudor England, adultery by a queen was considered treason, punishable by death. On the morning of February 13, 1542, Catherine was led to the scaffold at the Tower of London. She was just 18 or 19 years old. Dressed in a simple gown, she faced her execution with quiet dignity. Her final words acknowledged her sins and begged for God's mercy. As the axe fell, Catherine's short and tragic life came to an end. Catherine Howard's story is one of innocence sacrificed on the altar of ambition. She was a young girl manipulated by her family, used as a pawn in their pursuit of power, and ultimately destroyed by the very system that had elevated her. Her execution, like that of her cousin Anne Boleyn, serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers women faced in the volatile world of Tudor politics. Though her reign lasted less than 2 years, Catherine's legacy endures as one of the most tragic chapters in the reign of Henry VIII. Her life, marred by betrayal and sacrifice, continues to fascinate and sadden historians and readers alike. Catherine Howard was more than just a queen. She was a victim of her time, a teenage girl whose fate was sealed by the ambitions of those around her.